Hello there, welcome to my channel podcast Solid Quest. I just finished reading the book called Africa is Not a Country, and I'm forgetting the name of the author, Dipo Faloyin, something like that. But the good part about this book was that it is a thing that is known. I mean, we all should know it that Africa is not a country but a continent, and the fact that he presents this case and the way he presents it uh, kind of made me familiar with a lot of things which I would assume or was biased towards assuming to be true. Uh, those are factual informations, the things that have happened, the history, the people, the culture, the language, the food, the geographical boundaries, how the whole colonial history affected the continent, the in, you
In
know
a quarter mile, continue straight onto Massachusetts 140 North.
yeah, okay. Uh, the whole pain and suffering that we are all familiar with and we keep reading about that persists in Africa, and somehow, despite all the natural resources, all that is there to that country, to that
Continue straight
continent.
onto Massachusetts
See,
140 North.
that is the bias that keeps talking to the whole continent. Uh, it still would continue, and
Continue on Massachusetts 140 North for 5 miles.
they could solve their problems, but it's just that the world has, or the colonial powers have left them in such dire straits and causing such irreparable damage that nothing can be done about that. I guess until and unless people just let them be and just support only when asked to, rather than embarking on these altruistic seeming initiatives, trying to fund them, and then which actually we all know is just an ostensible way of trying to get into their governance, trying to bribe the people or the you know military rulers who can then stage a coup and then come to power and produce the desired results for the countries who want to be still in control of that whole continent for the hunger and greed, essentially. So that's what the book is about. That a good in the face uh, jolt of reality as to what the conditions of that continent is and the way people suffer from the understanding of that whole place through the prism of what the ex-colonial powers, or even some in some cases continuing to be the colonial powers, they show us, be it in the terms of the magazines, articles, reports, or even the movies, as the author refers to, that we still kind of watch those movies from that prism, whereby someone would show the dance and African dance, tribal dances, some jungles, until and unless there is a safari thrown in, there's hardly a context built to an African-based Africa-based movie. So with that in mind, with all those things, this book gave me the idea of how many different things that exist in something that we just club together as Africa. As the author points out, if Africa were to be countries based on dialects, we'll need about 2,000 countries. That just goes to show, I mean, the different cultures and dialects that exist in that expansive continent. In fact, just to give some more facts from the book, the whole of Sahara, from the eastern part to the western part, is the similar size area that would have the whole US continent from east coast to west coast and more. And the different and other metrics. I mean, they would throw in like California, Texas, New Arizona, no, New Mexico thrown in together would be something around, I guess, one of the countries, and so on and so forth. The coastline, the natural resources that it has. So all in all, I mean, it's a 600-page, 700-page book, and my God, what an eye opener! I think it's been written after COVID, which gives a fresh perspective of the perspective of what the conditions were in Africa during COVID and the different countries, military rule in certain cases, those dictators and how they suppress the people. Oh my God! I mean, it's just harrowing. It's something that's inspiring to kind of be thankful to, your conditions in life today, the kind of opportunities we have in other places, uh, for no fault of the people living there. It just kind of continues the suppression for years and years, be it from Belgian King Leopold to uh, Rhodes and the expeditions that were made in those early years, which caused all the pain and trouble, and has continued to, because those were the initial invaders, crusaders, so to say, who changed the whole idea of boundaries and according to their ideas, they just set boundaries for their conveniences and shaping countries and regions out of this whole continent, whereby different people, the different cultures existed, which had very, very different outlooks. When you club them together, they were bound to, instigate conflicts, and it almost is being referred to by the author as well, and it almost is deliberate because they wanted to sow in the seeds of division so that they could rule because of the whole old divide and rule policy they had. Well, I think in a gist, this is what this whole book was about, and I'm just still trying to recollect while on this lovely drive today. The weather is awesome. Uh, a bit cold, but it's foggy and just snowed in the morning. And I thought, why not go out for a drive, clear out thoughts with the book that I just read? What are my initial thoughts, my takeaways? Uh, I'm off the cuff, extempore, thinking and speaking. That's how I think I learn and clarify my thoughts, whatever I've retained from what I've consumed. So I think that's about it. That's essentially what this book was about. I'm still trying to wrap my brain and produce more, if there were, to this book, and any nuggets that can be really, really useful. You should definitely get your hands on this book. This is a fairly recent book. I mean, the author lives in US, but has a good perspective on the African continent. He's got a very detailed uh, log of history. He's researched it well. Yeah, I mean, some parts of the history, I mean, is I was not familiar with because there's just so much in the world we end up consuming our times with that we tend to not indulge in knowing more of our world, the world we live in, what has happened, what has transpired, learn from it because we often tend to make or repeat history if we don't know what are the lessons, if we don't carry the lessons with us.
So I would say that it is important that we keep learning these lessons, keep them in mind, be aware of our surroundings, how the world is, how different parts of the world are, and it's not just generally good. It is also of use to us to be aware of our own governance, our own countries, and so on and so forth. The whole social setup. Well, that's all that I had on top of my mind after reading this book. Hope you get your hands on this book as well. Africa is not a country. We should be very mindful of that when we refer to anything pertaining to Africa, the people, the culture, the different countries, the different languages, and not just get or develop these biases against the whole continent. In terms of the poor imitations of accents and people and certain clothing. And it is only going to help us develop our own personalities and outlook if we know more about that area which we are not in, and that applies to anything in general. So those were the thoughts right off the cuff. So on top of my mind, this drive, as I said, is really been something that made me think a lot. And hope you're liking it, and hope you like this content. Do let me know, please, please, please. Do let me know what you think. What all changes can I make? What you like or not? The books that I'm reading and I'm sharing over here. What have you been able to watch? There are a couple of other videos. Hope you've got a chance to refer to those as well. I'll really appreciate if any sort of feedback is coming from your end. And yes, please do feel free to like, share, and subscribe as extensively as you can. Please, please press that button. Makes a lot of difference to my life as I can put more resources to this and get more into this video making, video logging sort of a genre here. Well, what else? Talking about whatever is happening recently in the world in general, on top of my mind, I just remember a few keywords I thought of. I think the whole Middle East is blowing up, and I think there is a recent mishap whereby a couple of US American soldiers have been killed, I believe, in Jordan, and that is going to throw the things into a complete tizzy in Middle East because there's now a whole serious uh, lashing and criticism against the current administration, Biden administration, to do something about it. Why has and how has that situation been allowed to flare up? They're asking for serious repercussions and retaliations against Iran per se and other participants in that region. So we'll have to see what this does to the whole you know serious situation that is brewing over there and in the world in general, because uh, Ukraine on one side, and then now this whole Middle East is spreading day by day. Newer participants are coming in. Last week, I believe, last week, South Africa brought in the case against Israel in the International Court of Justice, and they've come up with a hearing with their verdict, whereby holding scathing remarks against Israel. However, they did fall short of calling for a ceasefire, which is something that is left to the participants and the other members, such as US and other countries, who have a more extensive say in that matter in that regard. So that's the development happening on that front. And uh, while at that, I mean, I think UN funding has been withdrawn or stopped by a couple of countries, including UK, US, Finland, Australia, Germany, I believe, and Canada, Italy. So that is the latest that is happening, and that has happened in the wake of some news reports coming in of involvement of certain staff members of UN's UNRWA, which is the agency that has worked in Gaza for forever, since 1948. And I think it is being the agency has been heavily criticized, and the fundings have been withdrawn for the severe lapses. For instance, they found anti-Semitic material, educational material, and certain heads are going to roll now, clearly. But this is a big development, I would say, because the dire need for emergency aid is now going to be severely impacted with this latest development, as the agency that was kind of catering to the needs of the Palestinians is in the Gaza region, Gaza Strip, is going to get severely impacted, and they're already saying that. However, I read somewhere that somebody pointed out very correctly that the malfeasance of certain employees should not kind of portray the whole agency to be corrupted or be inclined or predisposed one way or the other. So that is an important thing. I mean, we should not jump to conclusions while catering to whatever is wrong is needs to be looked into. And the fact that there were staff members who aided the whole terrorist attack in Israel is a serious matter altogether, coming from the agency of repute such as UN and its subsidiaries. While Finland came up, I think Finland is undergoing this whole voting for its new president, which is going to be the first one after their inclusion into NATO. That's going to develop that region, and it's quite critical, I would say, because that would set the tone for how things are going to shape up on the neighboring Russian aggression, clearly on display, and Finland and Russia being neighbors. So this is going to be a critical development as well. What is the new government going to be like, and what is their outlook going to be like? So that was that, and commenting on the spirit of the people to have come out and voted in such freezing temperatures as is currently the case in Finland is amazing. Parts of Finland, it's amazing. What else? I think French Revolution has a new definition. There is a tractor protest going on. I mean, something serious because it's by farmers, but it's just a little funny given the French Revolution used to be in such high regard, and currently the situation being the way the protest is going on, it involves a lot of agri waste being dumped at the gates of offices and government offices, because farmers, maybe rightly at that, have put the whole capital under siege, Paris under siege, because they're asking for protection on prices and protection from cheaper imports, which is affecting their livelihood and has put them under a lot of pressure. Apparently, a lot of police, about 10 to 15,000, had to be deployed, and because of which there's a lot of expected blockade and disruption to the 8 or 10 highways leading into Paris. That's expected and anticipated. Somebody else, I think, threw soup at Mona Lisa at Louvre Museum, which just goes to show the level at which people have stooped in terms of the way revolutions or protests happen these days. It could be done in another manner, but that to each his own, and the government is going to look into it. And I don't know, maybe that helps people get together and protest better, but ruining your own artifacts is not one of the more pleasant ways, I would say. Another serious front, while I think on the Middle East, I just recollected, I don't know from where, but taking a dump, I guess. Agri dump is the dump of technology that one would consider was the case with Iran, but it looks like they have kind of leapfrogged out of it and have launched a couple of satellites into space. And I think I was reading the article whereby it is expected, or there is an US Intel assessment which holds it to be possible dual-use rocket, and that is a serious thing because if their ballistic missile technology system is getting advanced to that level, then than used to be the case, then it's something to worry about. And the whole backing of Houthi rebels to be able to attack with drones and all on commercial ship traffic, as well as the U.S. Ships over there in the Red Sea. It's quite a serious thing, and that's one of the developments which one needs to be mindful of. And despite the fact that Iran has clearly defied the UN resolution, but I'm sure that's happening because the UN sanctions have apparently expired last year, sometime towards the end. So they might be taking leeway from that end and enjoying this particular lull or sort of a moment of confusion and chaos across the world, whereby US's supremacy is at stake and a bit challenged all around. So maybe Iran has taken to exploring and improving its technology. That's how this particular new development seems to have happened. A bit worrisome over there, and it's going to be interesting how this develops and what this develops into. Uh, I think that would be all these things would affect the global economy, and we'll need to be very mindful of. At least that's what I think. And as an individual, I can only think about my own sphere of influence, my own life, and how can I hedge my risks from these global developments that keep happening. And it's always good to keep a tab of what's happening around in the world. So these things affect the economy, the global economy, and that affects our salaries, expenses, inflation, and rates, and all that. Like for instance, Fed is going to this week is going to be the Fed rate week again. The whole hoo-ha and the whole hoopla around it. Would Fed cut the rates? Would it not? And would it pivot? Would it be successful in its attempt to achieve soft landing, which they're saying soft landing American economy. Funny part is there's an American Airlines which did a hard landing in Maui and ended up injuring 6 people, 6 passengers. But yes, Fed is trying hard for a soft landing here. Soft landing, hard landing. I mean, that's the confusing world all around. And it's just so fickle and so difficult to make sense of at times. It's almost like everybody's just speculating endlessly from one end to the other and then just trying to prove their point to be right. That's all that is happening. And within this, I think I realized that all I need to do is just keep some filters to make some sense out of this insanity at times. Have to play by the rules and make some sense out of such jargon, and we'll see what rate policies will look like and how those will affect mortgage rates and our ground level interest rates that impact us as individuals. Another, I think, way to look at it is, and this is something that caught my eye last week, was the way the prices moved on Tesla and Intel. Shook a bit of the portfolio that one would hold, and sometimes it just looks like it is that the movements are so strong and so abrupt, because there would be 1 week, all the articles would be praising heaps on these companies and their outlook, and then suddenly you will see a 10%, 11% drop in a day or even a week. It's so bizarre that it almost looks like it's almost some sort of a manipulation in the background. Obviously, nobody's putting any insinuation to that, but hey, there's got to be some fire to the smoke or the smoke screen that retail investors are made to be lost in. Well, that's that, I guess. Sharp moves for these two stocks, and Tesla still. There were some reports coming in on the kind of pressure. Though the week before that week, there was a news that things are looking up and rosy, and suddenly, bam. Same is the case with Intel. I'm sure they're going to come up with that U.S. government is going to help them with something, and AI and the whole focus on chips right now. So I don't know. Anyway, well, that's that. That's all that was on top of my mind. I'm running out of the topics. I'm sure there's a lot happening all around the world, in your lives, in mine, and in the lives of other people all around us. Do let me know what is going on. Please share, like, and subscribe. Please share, like, and subscribe, guys. I'll keep up with this. Hope you're enjoying my content. Hope you enjoy this drive that I go for, and you're able to join in on this drive with me virtually, but wholeheartely. I'll try to go to other areas and show you other areas of New England, and hopefully that'll be appealing and enjoyable for you as well, along with the content that we talk about here, and we'll continue this conversation. So, with that, thank you again. And thank you for joining in. Thank you for your support. And thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing my content. Well, that's a wrap. See you next time. And until next time, have a good one.